meeting were handed out. Has everybody had the opportunity to read them?
Yes, I have.
Any changes, additions, omissions?
I move the minutes be accepted as submitted.
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes. Only one item on the agenda, and that's a special exception for the sign. And with that said, go for it.
Guess y'all need to vote.
We need some more information. Where is it going to be located? Do you have the property in Iceland?
I believe so. It's in your packet there. If you'll turn it over on your packet, the state planner's provided for you, DD.
I didn't know the exact location,
It's
so
about
that
where-
blue map, I put the red, I'm sorry, it's small.
It's about where the, your van is now.
Precisely.
Which is where now?
This is a split here, and there's a van that's parked in this lot right here.
Okay.
The planning commission declined it because of the size.
They should have declined it based on the fact that I requested a billboard that's not allowed. Then they should have gone to an off-premise sign, which is also not allowed. Then I ended up with you guys because it is a special exemption, and that's what I'm here asking for y'all's vote on today.
So you're asking for 10 by 12?
I didn't ask for that. I'm asking for the exemption in this to have a sign at that location.
So is that the sign that you're gonna be putting there?
No.
Okay.
It is in its likeness.
Larger, smaller, square, rounder.
Definitely not rounder. I like rectangles, so rectangle perhaps. The coloring would be the same, the phone number would be the same, and in terms of size, something a little bigger than that. But I don't know that it would be exuberant.
What size is that about?
A 4x8,
4x8.
so it'd be what, 4 and 8 is 32? Or,
32 square feet.
yeah, okay.
So that's the size you're proposing?
It is not. Now, that question was asked just a moment ago, and I believe that throughout your regulations, it states 120 square feet at its top and a 0 at its bottom. So again, I would ask the board here to vote one way or the other, thumbs up or thumbs down, for a regional exemption for a tourism sign to go in Grundy County to promote a Grundy County business to help Grundy County folks.
Just so I'm clear, on the back page of the handout, there's a billboard, which is number 9, and then there's a single pole number 11, and a poly sign number 10. Do your proposals fit into 9, 10, or 11?
Absolutely.
Which one?
I'd have to do some more reviewing of it, but it looks like number 10 or number 11 would be a similar situation as I have throughout the county, probably more like number 10. Due to the fact that we've got wind on the mountain and we need more structures to hold our stuff up. Tyler Mansfield's a little expensive on his welding, but he does a great job.
Would it be a two-sided or a one-sided?
It would absolutely be a two-sided sign. The front side would be the shuttles, and perhaps the other would be Bigfoot, or maybe they're both shuttles. I'm just not sure, but both, or maybe it's even the hunting, but it would be something geared towards a tourist attraction, which meets the definition of why I'm here.
But you don't have a final size for us tonight. Can we agree on a final size?
Sure, what do you propose?
Well,
I don't think that's,
Yeah, we can't really propose.
Okay.
We can ask, but the
Or we can
ordinance is
suggest.
120 square feet. So
And
you're asking to go above 120 square feet.
not necessarily, I'm not. First of all, if we're talking about 120 square feet now, is that a state regulation, or is that by the guidance of your department, Anya?
No, it is written into the Montego zoning ordinance that one.
And is it permitted to be as such?
The max is 120. You had just previously,
Have you received any correspondence, any of you all today, from any state entity describing 120 square feet?
at this particular point, would not the city ordinances rule?
Okay?
What do
I'm
you,
asking a question.
could you explain what you meant by that question?
What are you trying to get at?
I'm just asking if there's been any correspondence to give us any insight into 120 square feet, if that's something that is permitted by the state that you all can limit, or you cannot limit the size of the sign.
The city has already set that as a limit.
Okay.
At 120.
And that's in here, I got that, and I'm just asking for clarification
Right.
from your office to ensure there's not been any correspondence as of today, this moment, to this board or anybody else that would indicate any clarification about 120 square feet. But quite frankly, that really doesn't really matter. I'm just asking the question. Y'all asked me some questions, so I'm asking y'all to make sure that we're right on 120 square feet.
That's what's written in the zoning ordinance.
Okay,
And
so
I-
with that being said, I would absolutely then fall under that provision. If that's the most that you all allow, I would like to ask for the maximum, and I will probably do something less than that.
Then why does he need an exception? Just because it's a regional zone?
Because there's no off-premise signs, there's no billboards, and I do meet the requirement for a tourism sign.
So the BZA doesn't have jurisdiction to ask, I mean, you guys can ask him for a sign size, but the max is set at 120. That's what's, the max that's permitted. All he's asking for is a special exceptions approval that his sign counts as a regional tourism development sign.
But
Let me ask a question. You sent out a letter on May the 4th to the adjoining
Yes.
property owners. Have you heard from any of them?
No, but I don't know if anyone here is for that, from that letter.
Is there anyone here that would?
We're here, we own the property.
You want the sign?
What
Do you
difference
want the
does it make?
sign?
What difference does it make to them? They've
Well,
allowed me
we're
to park
here-
my truck.
we're
They've
here-
allowed me to put my sign.
We're here to hear citizens' voices also.
Fair enough.
It's fine with us.
Well, I assume this ordinance was put in here for a reason, not to have signs, off-premise signs. And if it's approved, I assume that we would have to approve the next one
Absolutely,
and the next one.
absolutely.
And I don't know, I don't know if it meets the qualification of, I would assume it does, but looking at the definition, but I would assume, I don't know where you draw the line on what meets the qualification, what doesn't.
I think there's a really clear definition that's been provided for you. I think if you read that excerpt, I think it's definitively states the obvious.
Well, I guess a motel could say that they were promoting tourism.
I think you ought to ask your lawyer about that in the city tournament.
I would assume.
I'm not gonna go back and forth
High
with
Point,
you, just a vote, yes or
Bed and
no.
breakfast, I don't know, what else could, I don't know where you draw the line on what
I
makes.
don't have any idea. But if you have a rule and you have an exception to the rule, as attorneys have told me previously, you don't have a rule. So we could take each one under consideration, but if we denied someone, then their argument in law would be, well, you approved this one, why not this one?
I agree.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I sure hope that you'll take the citizens of Grundy County into consideration. I hope that you will take the taxpayers of our community into consideration. I think that there's only a few ways that our citizens of our community keep taxes low. There's only a few ways that we can bring in revenue to this community. And one of those ways is through a bed tax. I think, Ms. Dee Dee, you're familiar with that bed tax. I think somehow you've got an exemption over there, though. At your place in the assembly, I think it's a religious exemption. I'm not quite sure when you have.
No, we don't, we pay now,
Oh,
Grundy
okay.
County 5% and the town 5%.
Gotcha, I understand. So in terms of what this means to Grundy County folks, it helps with taxes, it helps with bringing in revenue, and yes, it helps me, but it helps our folks in our community more.
Is there any further discussion?
I have another question.
Good.
Is it going to say shuttles to the caverns? Is it going to be brought in your own personal business?
That is my personal business.
I mean, the caverns are not your business.
No.
That's regional tourism.
Correct. And if I so choose and I make a deal with them as they are my partner, I may very well do that. But I'm not here representing them tonight. I'm not here asking for that sign. I'm here asking for a sign for Bag and Stoss Farms and Bigfoot Adventure to go on the property of Miss Church. And the likeness of this sign, just as it is very like to the one at the billboard at the end of the town, as well as the 3 billboards on the interstate to the east as well as to the west. So all of the billboards are like and similar. I understand that we in Monteagle for a long time, it's a balance. It's a balance with this board, it's a balance with the planning commission and new folks coming in and the old folks that are here. I don't propose to have an answer to that, but I do think that it can start with an approval of this sign in Grundy County that's outside of the immediate Monteagle area. I have spent the money to bring people to our exits, and I would hope that this board would absolutely partner with me in getting those individuals from Monteagle on out to the rest of the county that we promote, whether it be the OHV Park or the Caverns or my place or South Cumberland or whatever it may be. That's what this billboard, not billboard, that's what this sign does, and it's end of the deal. That's it advertises. And either we're for tourism or we're against tourism.
I appreciate, we appreciate what you're saying. Needless to say, we too are interested in that with reservations. Yes, sir.
I went out and
Please
spoke to
identify yourself.
I'm Travis Lawyer, I'm the building inspector and codes enforcement. I went out and spoke to Mr. Andy and on site and kind of looked at what he was what he was proposing on paper. And understanding the concept of tourism and the industry for the area with the caverns, with his park out here on Klaus Hill. Understanding that we are the town where these folks are coming in. I kind of understand where he's going and stand in favor with him to advertise the direction to get there, because some of these folks that's coming strictly to the OHV park and stuff, they're coming into this community to seek lodging, food, everything. This is their town for these attractions in Grundy County.
Exactly.
So, if he's got a business or vital stance to draw the folks to his establishment, that's kind of the way, the open mind that I looked at it with. It'd be no different than going down the interstate, seeing the sign that says Red Roof Inn 5 miles. Granted, it's in Monteagle. It's not smack dab in the middle of Monteagle, is what I told Andy. It's on the subs on the outskirts, and that's a confusing area, with the road and the fork and the split right there with Summerfield going around. I understood his concept better once I got out there and seen what he was proposing to me.
Well, I've seen the sign from the land part.
I personally think the ordinance needs to be changed. There's a difference between advertising and directional. It's the signs that the state put up, the brown or whatever, I'm colorblind, whatever they are either 6x6 or 4x6, 6x8. One right this side of this, right here on the corner, and one this side going the other way.
How do you do one without the other? How do you give a directional sign and not advertise? Because wouldn't it have the business on the sign with an arrow? I guess I'm confused.
Well, their directional signs give arrow, they point.
The tourism signs, and they have a name out there, it says
Yeah.
Bigfoot. So how is that not advertising for Bigfoot?
I'm not saying it's not,
Okay.
but I say the 120 is a billboard.
By state standards or your standards?
I'm not gonna argue with you about
I'm just
what
asking a
standard.
question just as you've done.
I'm talking now, I'm frustrated with the ordinance. So I am gonna propose that the ordinance be looked at. I know it's gotta come from the planning commission.
You know some people on there.
Huh?
You know some people on there.
I know a couple right here. So, but my planning committee meeting, the planning committee would have approved the sign had it been defined in a size. Anya corrected us that we can't define the size.
You'd been in violation, you can't have an
Yeah.
off-premise sign.
So, but if the ordinance was different from there, and I'm not getting on my stump here and talking about the ordinance, and it's not solving the situation right here. But my problem is approving one and then being in here once a month and approving other signs. You might as well change the ordinance to where everything's approved. And I think the intent of writing the ordinance was to not have signs scattered all through money, like some of our surrounding areas.
We could just have a roll call vote at this point.
I think Bill will dictate that.
We'll take care of that. Appreciate your concern.
I just want to get out of here for time.
Well, there's the door.
Let me just ask, if I may,
Vote
Mr.
is
Chairman,
down.
Mr. Bagenstos, if I may, part of my concern is my confusion, and shame on me, but let me just ask a couple of basic questions. In the signs that Mr. Black was referring to, there's the name of the entity and an arrow.
Mhm.
And that was, I think, from Tourism Board or State or somebody, and everyone seemed to like those. So that's one kind of sign. Your sign, the question was, would there be other people advertising on it or under it? Is it a directional sign with arrows pointing to take that left or right down Clouds Hill Road or Summerfield Road, whatever it's called? And
I didn't hear the question today in reference to if I was going to advertise for others. I have heard that in the past, but not today.
that's part of my confusion.
Okay, so,
Dee asked that already today.
no, she asked, I guess, on the others, we had a discussion whether it's gonna be on the front or the back. And I said that perhaps I would have one on the front and the back. I would
Right.
not, however, be doing one for someone else, at least at this time, and I was not representing those folks at this time. So will there be an arrow on my sign? Absolutely. Will it have only Bigfoot Adventure or Bagenstos Farms? Absolutely.
Well, one thing,
Yeah.
when you say Cavern Shuttle, where you propose to put the sign, will there be a shuttle service from there to Bigfoot?
There may be in due
Because that
time,
came up in time also. I'm trying to understand the total concept.
certainly. So to be candid with you, depending on the outcome of this here, I meet the requirements and I've met with our building inspector for an on-premise sign. That would include a structure to be built. I would need to then come back before the planning commission. I meet the 4 requirements there. The only question that I would have there for the planning commission is if they're gonna put me back to the BZA, due to the one point, do I have to hook up, because it's available to me, the water and the sewer on that piece of property, which I've already talked with the folks about that, about hooking that up if necessary. The only structure I would want to build, however, to answer your question directly, is a bus stop, similar to the one that you all have in the center of town, and it's like a
A
glass.
shelter.
Yeah, a glass enclosed type situation.
All right, so
And I
that,
think that sign is limited by the square foot of the building.
It is. I think there's 5 that are allowed on premise, whether it be there, the side, out in the way. I think there's 1 car space too. That car space would be something of interest, I think.
I just want to clear up those points, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to say, Andy, I think you'd have a stronger case if you were advertising for the caverns and your business. That's more of a regional sign.
If
That's
I
what we
don't-
told Michelle last month, is we'd really like to see you doing something with others for a regional sign.
So, Miss Dee Dee, I hate to do this, but the fact of the matter is to have someone tell me on this board who doesn't pay their bed tax, and you did not last month, nor the month before, and you use an exemption to try to tell me what I'm to do when I do advertise on I-24 to the tune of $2,000 a month, not only for my business, but 2 other businesses alike. I'm sorry, but I don't want to hear that kind of
That's not
rhetoric.
accurate.
That is, go to the county courthouse and check. I did last
They
month.
have it.
Let me call the order. There's no sense in arguing. You have a point. This board has a point. We want to work with you. We're not here to be an argumentative body as you seemingly want to be.
I've asked you to
Well,
vote.
that's the direction you're trying to go.
I just need to vote.
That's all.
Yeah,
As
that's
far as
right.
I'm concerned, I don't want to hear another word from you.
Well, first of all, you can't speak to me like that, and if you do, you're gonna get spoke to just like this. I'm a citizen,
Good.
I'm a person, either vote me
Good.
up or
I am
down.
so glad you are, and I am so glad you want to support our community.
Absolutely, having
But
been
that's
sit on your
with-
board
with
myself.
that- Well, we hope you do again.
I don't.
With that
I'll make a
said,
motion to deny the request of the application for special exemption for off-premise sign, Bigfoot Adventures, and Bigfoot Adventure.
is there a second? With the failure of a second, is there another Motion.
Would you be willing to get us a sign proof to look at?
There it is.
You just told us that was not the proof.
It's not the proof because it's a 4x8 sign, and the fact of the matter is that I don't owe you any explanation what size I'm gonna put. But if you wanna know, Nate, because I do like you, 2 4x8 sheets is what I would do, one on top of the other to match what's gonna go into the Fiery Gizzard Trail, right there on the left, across from the state sign. It's gonna be very similar to that size. What I propose is that'd be 4, that'd be 8, so it'd be an 8x16 sign.
So I can tell you don't have a whole lot of patience with this process, and so that said, I just, based on what I'm hearing, I think that there's some hesitation from the board to set a precedent on this first case, and there is some interest on the board in supporting your business. I think it would help this organization to make this first foray into a regional tourism sign if you'd simply be willing to provide us with a proof of what that sign would look like. That's of no cost, but you said earlier that's not it.
It's not the size sign, Nate.
And you opened this meeting telling us that it may have this, or it may have that on it, or
I'm
maybe
gonna go
this
to
size, or it may
120.
be that size.
That's
So, you know, I'm just trying to figure out how to come up with some middle ground here.
120 is what I'm asking for. I've told you already, I will probably do something less. In the last 2 sentences or 3, I told you it'd be a 8x16. That's certainly less than 120. It certainly should be something you all would be interested in. I'm not here to put something out that's gonna make me or my community look bad. I think I've given multiple examples of that, Nate, throughout our community.
All right, so we've got a requested size. Can you tell us content? Can you tell us what's going to be on the
Bigfoot
sign?
Adventure, an arrow, a phone number, the word shuttles, caverns will be on there as well. They are a partner of ours. Am I gonna put, here's how you get to the caverns? No. Am I gonna say, here's how to get to the shuttle service for the caverns? That's the idea. That's the whole idea of my sign, is to say, here's how you get to Bigfoot. And if you're gonna try to get to Bigfoot, at Bigfoot, there's also shuttles there as well.
That's too much to put in a motion. So Mr. Chairman, I'm struggling here because, you know, I made a motion to approve a sign last month based on what I felt like were addressing the concerns of the group. I would be willing to do that, but honestly, Andy, I'm struggling with what appears to be some animosity here, and we've got a board here that's trying to make a first,
Okay?
and we don't seem to be getting a whole lot of assistance from you to help us make that decision.
How do you say that not bringing a sign? You all asked me to bring the landowners. You all asked me to be in attendance myself. Fourthly, you all asked me to answer questions for you. I've done each of those 4 things today as requested by Anya. Anya, is there anything further that you ask of me other than to have the landowner present my sign and be here myself?
I mean, at this point, it's just you having to support the notion that it's a regional tourism development.
And I believe,
That's
when
up
we
to the
look at the
board
definition,
to
Anya,
decide.
of regional tourism
It's up to
sign.
them. It's not up to us.
No, I was asking, do you have that copy with you? Oh, I got it right here, I'm sorry. It says regional tourism development sign. An off-premise sign that promotes and provides direction to a seasonal, which I am, Bag and Stoss Farms, hunting and zip lines is seasonal, both. Or year-round venue, which I am, attraction, historic landmark, which I'm not, a natural area, which I am, 300 acres, which is conserved, a cultural event, which I've had multiple Bigfoot Blues festivals out there, as well as our county fair, or other destinations deemed by Board of Zoning Appeals to be economic and cultural importance to Monteagle, Grundy County, Franklin County, Marion County. Such signs are typically oriented towards interstate or other regional travelers and are limited to the town's commercial districts. How do I not fit by definition in that sign? I don't understand.
What zone is this, Anya?
C2,
C2, so it's a commercial district.
yes.
Mr. Chair, for the record,
the day that Andy and I spoke out there, and he was mentioning the 8x4 stack, comes up to 64 square feet
Yes.
of the proposal on the 120 allowance by the ordinance. And I'm staying neutral in it, but I've tried to read this ordinance back and forth 50 times to make sense and try to understand the regional aspect of it. And I understand, you know, if certain things are put on this sign, such as this with the cavern shuttle, and you know, I seen the farm vans out this weekend, matter of fact, have shuttled into the caverns. They had a big event at the caverns. I just don't know where to go with the regional side of it. I'm pretty gray on that aspect of it.
So this all brings up that there's a typo in the minutes. I made a motion to approve a 36 square foot sign, which we had decided at the time was the rough square footage of the state park signs, not 360. I just saw that.
I'd asked before the meeting, and once the clarification was made and you all approved, I just assumed that was a correct ask, although I did see it.
I missed that.
No worries. I asked Debbie about it previously before the meeting today, and I figured that was just a typo. It says a typo, that's good.
After the meeting, we can
We can amend the.
yeah, amend the motion.
It's one reason I thought if you were asking for a 360 square foot sign, 120 shouldn't be an issue.
Right, no. But that was a 6x6, which is what we were determining the state park
Or
signs.
5x7 would be under there.
Yeah.
In other words, kind of the configuration of the existing tourism signs that came about from the state.
And those are good looking, and that's why the colors, the
I
brown
noticed.
or the gray, it's very similar to what the state regional tourism signs that have been put up throughout our community, that's what they look like. That sign up to, or next to one of the other signs, it looks very nice. At the end of Clowes Hill Road, or the end of Summerfield, before you turn right there's those two signs
Right.
sitting side by side, and they do look similar, you know, not exact, but similar. And so even without the caverns and the shuttle being on here, I believe that Bigfoot Adventure meets regional tourism.
Well, I'm not your campaign manager, but the caverns would pick up the traffic from Tracy City to see where to turn to get to the caverns or a shuttle or something. But
Would you consider using the cavern's own logo?
No. It's really simple. If in due time, the caverns comes to me and they say, Andy, do you mind to add something to your sign or something of that nature? I might consider that. I'm not here today to represent them, Dee Dee. I'm here to represent Bigfoot Adventure on one of your signs. Do you mind to put over there at your place something about Bigfoot for me?
Well, actually, I've advertised 3 years with the Monteagle Inn.
No, I'm asking for me. Would you advertise for me? You're asking me to
Yes, I
advertise
would.
for others.
Yes,
Why
I would.
haven't you?
Despite your personal attacks against me
No, it's not.
today.
It's
I would.
facts.
They are not
It's-
facts.
they are.
Debbie can go to the city camp office
And
right
we can go to
now.
Grundy County.
Let's call,
That's just-
let's not sit here and argue. It's obvious that this is a controversial matter. But as a board, as a BZA board, is there a motion regarding this request?
to call the question.
I call the question.
No, I make a motion that we call the question
And the question is,
whether to approve, well, call the question is to vote on the issue, to approve or disapprove the request of the
and that's
the
what I'm
developer,
asking for.
Mr. Baggin's
I'd
Point
like-
of
sign
order.
permit
Point of order, there was no second to the motion.
to
The motion
call
needs
the-
to be tabled.
Richard's
Right.
motion was not seconded.
It was not seconded.
It
So-
doesn't have to be seconded when you call the question.
It does, if I recall,
Oh.
Robert's Rules of Order.
It does or doesn't?
Well, either he needs to remove it or the chairman needs to remove it from the table.
Was it tabled?
No, that's the point.
It failed, it died for lack of second.
Yeah.
Richard's motion today died for a lack of second. Now I'm making a motion to call the question.
I will second that motion.
Now,
Well, we
is
don't
it-
really know what the question is.
Well,
I was gonna make one.
actually,
You want me to withdraw? I withdraw my motion,
Yeah.
you withdraw your second, make a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna recycle my motion from the last meeting. And I'm doing this because I feel like it strikes a balance between the concerns that people have regarding too many signs. And I sent you that video. I didn't even know that band had been the original producer. Did you
Mr.
watch?
Wilson, if you.
All right.
Wait,
So, huh? Yeah.
I just want a point of clarification on this. So I'm trying to make sure that everything is done legally.
Mhm.
And all the board can do is ask Andy if he would, agree to a certain size, but you can't approve a motion with a size in it.
I don't know that I
Tell me how that
understand the
works.
difference.
Well, I don't think the board can,
Because the BZA board cannot set a size standard.
yes.
Correct.
120
But we
is
can't
down.
table it till next month.
That's
Yeah.
maximum.
But we can,
You can't tell him.
You can't set the size on the sign, but you can ask Andy if he'll put a 64.
Is it enforceable?
If that makes.
And that goes into the
No, it would just
notes,
be
and then
based
we
on
make a
the
motion
goodness of
that
his
has a
heart.
size limitation on
And you
it?
can't ask him to change the content, like the color, the graphics, or anything, but if your definition for a regional tourism development sign included advertising the caverns or some natural outing, that's not his business, that could be considered a
so we
regional,
either approve,
it'd be up
approve
to
it,
y'all to
and he can
decide
do what he
that.
wants to.
But you guys can
120
tell him
feet,
what color
we don't.
or like what graphic to use, or,
The only thing I see here, we really
Are they
can't do
Richmond
anything
Drive?
except go ahead and say yes or no.
yes. So it's up to you if it's yes or no.
Only choice, and
Now.
it's not enforceable.
Go back and look and make sure that
Agree to his request or deny.
So, can you say that out loud? Because I can't make that motion.
Right now it just
Say
says
that
So right
again.
now, we can't really.
I think Andy whispered a maximum size to us that I need him to articulate out loud, because apparently I can't articulate it in a motion.
It has to be from like the goodness of his heart. I don't know legal terms what that is, but you can negotiate as a board. You can just ask, just the same as you can ask a developer to, have a barrier between his development and residents.
But it's not enforceable.
Well, yeah, it is, if he agrees to it on the terms. So Andy, would you be willing to agree to a 65 square foot, or 64 square foot sign? That'd be an 8 by 8. Is that what you just said? I think that's what you just said. Whisper.
Are there any other qualifications, anything else you want to put in there, Nate, other than just 64 square feet?
I was going to make a motion. If he says, sure, I would consider it, then can I make a motion and we can all talk about the motion?
I think so. I'm sorry. I'm new to, I'm trying to figure this out as well, and I just want to
What about
protect.
64 instead of 85?
Well, 64 is 8 by 8, is what I said.
If both parties are happy, I think it would be.
So I'm gonna move,
No, instead of 40, 6 by
6 by 8 would be 48.
which is the same as the biggest sign that's right here.
So we're having a discussion and you can react to that discussion, but apparently we can't do that without your reaction to the discussion.
I hope that makes sense to somebody.
I'm not sure this makes sense to me that if I have a maximum, I can't make a suggestion left below the
Here's what I'm
maximum.
telling you, I would like the approval for 120 square feet to show you all that I do have goodness in my heart. I will only do my particular sign at 64 square feet, but I would like to leave the option open for others to adhere to the provisions that you all have put throughout the ordinance to maybe help someone else down the road. But as far as I'm concerned, I would absolutely go on the record and say I want 2 4x4, 64 square foot, and that's that. But I would ask the board for 120 square foot approval, which is throughout your ordinances.
Does every additional sign also get a special exceptions?
Yeah, I think that's by definition. So I think if the caverns were to want to come and add to that location, they would just come do the same thing, and we would have set a precedent by approving a sign.
At 120 square feet, and if mine's only 64, logic would serve then that I would have the opportunity to help those folks like Ms. Dede is suggesting that I do.
Well, but in the same token, if you were to allow us to approve a 64 square foot sign, then someone else could come back with a 64 square foot sign, and the total would be 128.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Andy is the only one that we're dealing with. There is not any more signs going on this property.
But there
No,
are.
no, but there are other
properties.
locations in town. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely,
That's what-
but they're not on our property.
Right, right. But
That's
that's,
what I think. They should rise and fall on their own merits each case.
yeah,
If
yeah.
Andy's willing to do 64, then we should talk about 64. If Joe Dose comes in, then it'll be whatever he's proposing.
I would like to make a motion to approve a 64 square foot sign with a 15-foot maximum height, double-sided, with directional signage advertising Bigfoot Adventures.
I'll second that.
Wait, you better hear from Anya.
Wait, so can you repeat it? I'm sorry.
I made a motion,
Let me make a suggestion. You had asked him if that would be an agreed upon size,
would that be an agreed upon size?
Yes, Nate.
then what you do is make the motion as agreed to by Mr. Backenstoss.
I'd like to make a motion as agreed to by Mr. Bagginstoss to approve a 64 square foot sign with a 15-foot maximum height, double-sided, directional signage for Bigfoot Adventures.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, a like sign.
No?
Motion
I'm
passed.
opposed.
Say again.
I'm opposed.
Motion passes with two nay votes.
Thank you.
Thank you.